This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. It is a Thursday here in Pittsburgh, a beautiful Thursday. We're a couple of days away from the Steelers' home opener against the Los Angeles Chargers, and we're getting some more clarity on some things here. One thing we're not getting clarity on, Matt.
Yep.
Justin Herbert's situation. Did not practice yesterday, was limited today.
Remember, they're on the East Coast, folks.
They're on the East Coast, so they don't have their regular training facilities available. This is concerning for the Chargers.
It's an issue. It's not don't worry about it, he'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. I was listening to something this morning, and I guess betting is starting to sway towards Herbert not playing.
I'll bet.
And those folks in the desert usually know stuff. Those palaces weren't built because they're bad at their jobs. I don't know if he's playing or not. I'm not implying that I have this secret knowledge or that Vegas knows, but it's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely something to keep track of. Now, I expect him to at least get a limited practice Friday.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm Harbaugh, I'm at least calling him a game time decision,
right?
Too.
That's where I was going with that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So just to keep the Steelers guessing a little bit here, but it doesn't. If I'm Harbaugh and I'm looking at this, I'm going, do I really want my quarterback, who is the best thing that we have going for us on offense?
It's an ankle, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the best thing we have going for us on offense. Do I want him out there in a less than mobile situation against this particular defense?
Remember, he had the plantar fasciitis too, and that might be a non-issue anymore. But from what I'm told, it's never a non-issue. Yeah. That it always lingers and just it gets 1% better every day, and then some days take a step backwards. I bet he's still feeling that. I don't know if it's the same ankle or not. Either way, your mobility's compromised in some way, shape, or form against not the defense you want to be playing for that.
And a big part of their offense in terms of they want to run the football. But how much of that is the stretch stuff to the outside where the quarterback he needs his mobility to be able to get out there and get those handoffs out on the edge. Sure. If you watch J.K. Dobbins' big runs, a lot of that stuff is out on the edge with the long handoffs. And if you can't do that, it cripples your offense.
Yep, it absolutely does. And play action games obviously a part of their offense as well as everybody else's, and boots and rollouts, and everybody remembers the damage he did to the Steelers on the ground last time he was here.
I don't think that's happening this time.
I would think that's probably off the table. You know, I mean, unless the seas part and you get 5 or 6 slide, and I would not think incorporating him as part of the run game. If you watch both their games, there's 2 or 3, maybe 4 designed quarterback runs for him. I mean, remember, this was Kaepernick's offensive coordinator, Lamar Jackson's, and Herbert's not that kind of a runner, but when you get 10 blockers and a good runner, that's a weapon.
He's not immobile back there.
No, not at all. Who knows? I don't know if he's going to play or not, but I bet he's not 100%.
Yeah, that's the big thing here, and to me, that's the great equalizer that might give the Steelers an advantage on offense over the Chargers, because again, as we talked about yesterday, their skill position players are not good.
No, they're really not.
And if he is compromised, that advantage that they have at quarterback goes out the window.
Agreed. And even just watching their 2 games, I think everyone knows that listens. I am a big Herbert fan. I would gladly build my offense around him, my whole team around him. I think that's why Harbaugh took the job. I mean, he pretty much could have picked which ones he wanted. I would have taken that job too, despite some roster holes because of that guy. That being said, watching 2 games, I don't think he's elevated those receivers necessarily. Yeah. A great quarterback.
He's not played well. I wonder how much of that.
Right.
He missed the entire preseason
with the plantar fasciitis,
with that foot injury, and I wonder if it's still bothering him a little bit.
I would bet $1,000 at it
because some of the
throws they always do. They always do. That injury lingers all year long.
Some of the throws I saw him make in the tapes and the videos that I watched from that. I watched the entire game against Carolina. And I'm like, that doesn't look like a Justin Herbert throw. Like
he's one of the best passers in the league.
Yeah, bouncing passes at receivers' feet and things of that nature. I'm like, that doesn't look like him. And then you look at the numbers. He's 2 of 5 on throws of 20 or more yards down the field. He's 2 for 8 on throws between 10 and 19 yards. So that's
also not him.
4 for 13 on throws 10 or more yards down the field.
Yeah, and his body of work implies he's excellent in that area.
Yeah.
I mean, there's too much good to say this guy's fallen off a cliff or he's a bad player now. I mean, I bet things are bothering him.
It makes me wonder if the reason why he hasn't had the big passing numbers, because he's 27 of 31 within 9 yards of the line of scrimmage. Everything's sideways. A lot of sideways stuff and short passes over the middle, and then they try to get run after the catch.
But like the Steelers, they haven't needed him to be driving it into tight windows.
But I wonder if some of the reason for that they're getting the ball out of his hands so quickly is because he is a little compromised before the ankle injury.
Wouldn't surprise me one bit. I think that's certainly possible. And when the injury happened, it was pretty early in the training camp process, and there was a lot of doubt if he'd be ready for the beginning of the year. Of course, he's played through a lot of injuries in his career. I mean, him and Burrow came in the same year, and they always seem like they're fighting two different things at once. And he plays through
it. Tua was in that draft.
That's a good point, yeah. And he plays through it, but maybe that is an issue before the ankle.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
It bears watching.
A big thing I've been harping on all week is these teams have some similarities, to say the least. I mean, the style of play, things of that nature. And I've said the biggest advantage from this point of view is the Steeler defense.
Yeah.
It's the best unit out there.
Their biggest advantage is the
quarterback. Right.
Yeah.
And if that advantage isn't quite as strong against your biggest advantage, well, that's not great.
Yeah, you don't have the advantage.
Right.
Joey Bosa limited again today with that hip injury. He played through that last week, so that's nothing new there.
I would think they rotate the guys in behind him a fair amount too.
Especially if the Steelers are running the ball effectively.
Yes.
And putting together some long drives. Linebacker Junior Colson did not practice. He's dealing with the hamstring. Bud Dupree missed his second consecutive day of practice with illness.
Okay. Wow. You usually don't miss two with illness.
Yeah. So
who knows what that is?
That makes me wonder if maybe they won't be able to rotate quite as much. I know he's the fourth guy. Yeah.
But he is as fourth guys go, he's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the Steelers tried to bring him back here to some degree. They had some talks with him. Aloy Gilman with the knee injury, limited. He's their starting strong safety.
Yeah, he's not a bad player at all.
That's two days in a row he has been limited.
I meant to say this yesterday when you mentioned his name, but he was a name that we talked about before free agency opened. We didn't know they were going to get Elliott, but Elliott was a guy we mentioned. Gilman's a guy we mentioned that would have been a nice fit here. We like the player.
Yeah. Tight end Hayden Hurst with the ankle, limited for a second consecutive day. Khalil Mack was resting yesterday. He was back as a full participant today. Wide receiver Josh Palmer did not practice today.
No, he's been compromised too.
Yeah.
I think they wanted him to be the one, not knowing that Johnston was going to step up a little, and I think Palmer's kind of becoming the three.
Yeah,
in terms of importance.
An elbow and a calf for him. Huh. And then their
nickel. I think two or three of those names aren't going to play.
Yeah. The nickel corner Jasir Taylor with the fibula issue was limited today after not practicing yesterday.
How do you have a fibula? I guess it's a bone bruise or something.
Probably a bruise of some type or a contusion.
Broke,
yeah.
Right.
On the Steelers side of things, it looks much better today than it did yesterday. Russell Wilson limited again today. He's not playing this week. We know that.
Out there doing a little bit of stuff.
Yeah,
right?
and he said today, talked to the media after practice, said he's done more this week than he did last week. He's getting better and getting closer.
But he's not going to play this week.
No.
Yeah.
Roman Wilson was a full participant today after being limited yesterday.
Good. I still would be shocked if he gets a hat.
Yeah, I would. I would too. Najee Harris, a full participant today after getting the day off as a rest yesterday. T.J. Watt rested yesterday, full participant today. Same with Larry Ogunjobi. Cam Hayward got the Veterans Day off today.
Him and Ogunjobi switch.
They rotate,
right,
yeah. And then the two guys that did not practice were Isaac Seumalo and Michael Pruitt.
Okay, not looking great for either one of those.
No.
Yeah, I would think both those guys don't play, or Wilson. Russell.
Yeah. Matt, if Michael Pruitt can't go, he's been a big part of their 12 packages. Freiermuth hasn't been out there at all in any of the 12 personnel
which is
packages.
odd, but Pruitt plays a lot.
Yeah, and they use he and Washington in that 12 personnel package. It's like putting extra offensive linemen on the field
because Pruitt's a better blocker than Freiermuth.
Yeah,
I mean that's the logic behind it, whether we agree with it or not. I mean, I would have Freiermuth out there more, but I understand it. Right.
So if Pruitt can't play, would you go to a sixth offensive lineman in some of those situations, knowing that you want to get Broderick Jones some playing time as well. That's a way to do it.
100%. I'm always a favor of that. I mean, the Steelers, it's been a while, but they used to lead the league in it year after year. And
they haven't put it on tape. They haven't put any of that on tape yet,
right?
This season, and that might be a little twist that you can kind of surprise the Chargers with. It kind of slows down those defensive the edge guys.
Their edge guys are really good on both sides. I don't love leaving either tackle on islands against either one
of the tight ends.
Or exactly, and doubling them on the outside zone stuff and that kind of thing too would be useful. And I'm always a proponent of, who are my best 11 football players? I bet Jones is one of those 11. I mean, so, and the experience is helpful, and he could play either side. You can put him in motion. You could use him as a monstrous tight end. I think it's a great idea.
And he's athletic enough to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the other thing.
Right. I mean, he's not going to be running routes, but I mean, of course, right. But he's a great puller. He's great in space. Yeah, and I don't know how defenses do this, and I'm sure their rules are all different. But let's say he lines up next to Dan Moore. Does the defensive end, the edge guy,
kick out?
Does he kick the Broderick's outside shoulder, or does he stay on Moore's outside shoulder where he originally aligned? I don't know.
Now you're talking 2 extra steps.
That's a long way away from the quarterback. You know what I mean? And 2 huge human beings in your way.
Yeah, I don't recall whether they line up in a kind of a wider situation.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, everyone has different rule adjustments.
Yeah.
So I just don't know how they would do that. But if you're on the inside, if you're between the two, you're begging for a double. You know?
Right.
So.
And if you don't, if you stay inside the outside tackle, you're much easier to seal off to the edge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With a huge human being, not a tight end. I mean, a tight end against Bosa or Mack, even if it's Mercedes Lewis or pure blocking tight ends, are at a disadvantage.
Right.
I mean, that's what the defense
They're
wants.
giving up too much power.
Yeah. And frankly, how many times do the Steelers getting 5 guys in route combinations nowadays anyway? I mean, if you're going to keep Pruitt in or Washington, which is pretty common, Jones is better at that stuff than them.
Yeah. So, and you still have a tight end on the field who can, if you want, go do some, go out in a pass pattern or what have you. And,
Or, I mean, to expand it. I mean, if you call him a tight end and your 12 is him and Freiermuth, well, you got better receiver than Washington and Pruitt.
And technically it's not 12.
And you got a better blocker. Right, you know what I mean? So that could be a package too,
Yeah, there's just different things that they can do with it. I haven't looked to see if that's been a part of Arthur Smith's background.
I don't know. I really don't. But I will say, I mean, after scouting the Falcons as much as we did leading up to the season, they haven't had a 6 lineman.
Yeah, they just didn't.
Worth
their 5 were good, but they didn't have that 6 guy
behind them, and that's true for a year or two too. So I would bet not. That's definitely not their best 11.
And it also it works twofold because it
really physical football team.
It forces the defense to stay big.
Oh yeah,
and I think against this Chargers team, I want them in their base defense.
That's a great point. I would imagine, no matter what else you do, because the Steelers aren't going to come out with Broderick Jones and 4 receivers.
No,
Calvin Austin and all over the place. So I would imagine if Jones is on the field as a 6th lineman, just kind of thinking through this off the top of my head, you're going to get there 3-4.
Yeah.
And or I don't think you get like a goal line package, but you'll get there 3-4. Yeah. And their 3 part isn't very good.
Yeah, the 3 defensive linemen are probably going to be the 3 worst players on the field.
Yeah, I would think so. And I think you want them out there a bunch.
Yeah, and just
that
push
makes a lot
them around.
of sense to me. Yeah.
And on their roster, they only have 6 defensive linemen on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the Poona Ford's good.
He's all right, yeah.
But he's an undersized tackle.
He's 6 foot. And he's kind of a round bowling ball type guy, that plays low and gets off the ball well. Not your typical 3-4 player.
Yeah.
But they need some kind of interior pass rush.
Right. And so that's what they rely on. I want to wear those guys down.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The rotation of it all.
Yeah.
And maybe only 5 dress per week. I don't know who.
I mean, I would think they would dress 6 this week against the Steelers.
I mean, you would think. I don't know what their inactives have been like. But yeah, and they're not good players.
Yeah. Would you unleash Justin Fields as a runner? We've seen. I mean,
true packages for him.
Yeah. Over the years, we've seen the Steelers struggle against running quarterbacks. Everybody does. That's why it's so. But
yeah, it's
but I think sometimes the 3-4 defense struggles even a little bit more against it, just because of the attacking style of the defense.
Okay.
And you've got two edge rushers who want to get up the field. Like, all right, I'm just going to push you by and give him a lane.
Maybe.
Or even some screens and things of that nature that take advantage of those guys trying to get up the field and get to the quarterback.
I mean, they're the best two guys on the field for their defense. Yeah. I mean, with respect to James, I like Samuel. Asante Samuel's a good corner, but in terms of who do you worry about, it's Mack and Bosa. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. So, yeah, I mean, screens to neutralize them makes sense. Draws. I mean, quarterback draw.
Well, again, a quarterback draw.
Quarterback draw.
Let them come and shove them by and open a lane.
Especially because they're D-tackle types.
You can seal them off
You can
easily.
seal them pretty easy, and they're not like a DeForest Buckner with length to, going to disrupt those lanes or quickly get rid of their guy. I think he'll get past that first level pretty consistently. Makes some sense. Yeah. My only worry is designed heavy quarterback runs is the punishments he's going to take. You know, but it's something that we've seen flirting with, but not dedicated to. They haven't majored in it.
Yeah.
But it's hard to stop.
It's really hard to stop.
Yeah.
And
with
Fields
10 blockers with that guy?
Fields is a bigger guy than I think a lot of people realize.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was just standing next to him today when he was talking in the locker room, and I'm like, I mean, I'm 6'1". I'm not the 210 pounds that I used to be, but but I'm still 6'1", and he's got easily an inch on me, and he's put together pretty well.
I mean, you've been around a million Steeler quarterbacks, and he's got to be one of the more physically impressive ones. I mean, thickly built and withstand some punishment. And I always kind of compare him to like a thoroughbred. I mean, the speed guys, he's more like a horse than he is a little Lamborghini type. You know, I mean, he's big and physical and gallops.
Yeah, I might dial some of that stuff up this week. Just we've seen him run. He's run the ball 22 times in the Steelers' first 2 games, which is the second most of any quarterback in the league thus far. Yeah. But what he hasn't done is broken one of the long ones. His long run is 16 yards. We know there's more there to that than 16 yards.
Yeah, and the numbers really reveal this, but where this team is lacking badly through 2 games is
explosives.
Red zone and explosives. And he had a lot of explosives in Chicago as a runner. Yeah. And a passer. I mean, one of the beauties of him is...
To be fair, they've had some explosives taken off the board.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But, I mean, explosives were a specialty of his. There's no question about it. But when you started leaning that way, there was turnovers and sacks and fun. You know what I mean? So it's working, but, I mean, the chances of him turning the ball over don't greatly increase if you're going to run 3 to 5 quarterback powers that you didn't, or design quarterback runs.
And I just think he knows how to protect himself as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty good with that.
And our listeners have seen him run and seen him do athletic stuff, but you have not seen, unless you've watched Bear games, and I'm sure a lot of you have, none of you have seen him reach
some of the
full
crazy
speed.
Stuff that he used to do.
When he reaches full speed, it's something. I mean, here he's been not hesitant, but stop, start. I mean, I haven't seen a run where you're like, whoa, because he has that.
I've seen it. I mean, I likened it to Cordell Stewart when Cordell Stewart was still a young player in his prime. As I had it put to me one time, he's got, what speed.
Yeah.
The guys just... It's much like Lamar.
No doubt.
Unless you've played against it, you underestimate the quarterback being that fast.
Fields absolutely qualifies. Sometimes the safety takes a wrong angle because of it, or a linebacker because it's just uncommon. So maybe we do see more of that. I think that's possible.
And he's never played against the Chargers before.
Really?
He had played against Denver last week.
Yeah.
He had played them the previous season. Obviously, Atlanta was a team that he had faced before.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
This is a Charger team that's never seen him.
Okay.
And so I wouldn't mind unleashing that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Maybe with Jones on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, get some serious block and some beef out there.
Yeah, and just maybe not necessarily power, but just,
some design stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things I don't love about quarterback runs as a whole is there's a lot of running backs that don't contribute. Yeah. But I do think Najee and Warren are more than willing to
go take out a linebacker,
lead block it up, or whatever they need to do. I mean, they're not going to shy away. Where a lot of star backs take enough punishment as it is. They don't need to be doing that, or they choose not to.
How do you think the Chargers will treat the Steelers' passing game? You think they double George Pickens and try to walk Derwin James down on Freiermuth?
I don't
he's
know.
He's played 15 snaps in the slot this year.
Right. The more I think about it, though, the more I think Pickens has a monster game. Because no matter what, it's not going to be as hard as Terrell or Surtain.
Yeah.
And he kind of had monster games against them that just didn't show up on the stat sheet. And the eyeball test is extremely favorable. As you mentioned, about a third of his snaps are out of the slot. They're game planning him up a lot. I don't think anyone's going to follow him in this situation. Of course, they're going to do their best to bracket him or favor his side or keep a safety over the top. I think he blows up in this one. I mean, maybe they only throw the ball 20 times again, but I think he has a really good game.
I think the difference this week.
I don't think you can get away with either one of these teams throwing it 20 times a game.
Yeah. When I look at the Chargers cornerbacks, they're not real big.
No, they're not. They absolutely aren't.
Samuel's a good cornerback, as you mentioned, but he's 5'10". The guys that Pickens just faced were.
That's why he was a second round pick, not a first.
Yeah,
because he was not the super long.
Yeah. Terrell's like 6'1".
Yep.
Surtain is 6'1".
Yep.
This is a smaller cornerback.
Yeah, he's a really good player. He's tough like his dad. You can tell he grew up around it and would love him if he was here.
Yeah. I
don't think they follow with him, and he's not super long. I mean, he's not the prototype first round guy. I think he ran like a 4.49 or 4.5 flat or something too. Yeah. It wasn't a burner.
And but even Fulton, the other guy, is 5'11".
Yeah,
so they're both
okay. Yeah, right.
Under
they're
6 foot
tiny, but they're not huge.
Yeah,
I like their safety tandem. We've talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And James is huge, but neither one's a true free. I mean,
yeah, James plays that position, but that's not really what he is.
He came in the league as a box safety, Cam Chancellor type, when that was a big fad. And Gilman's good. He's good at everything, but neither one, I would say, has extreme deep range.
Yeah, ball hawking.
Right.
Range.
Like if you're going to leave Gilman to pick inside, sure, but that doesn't mean he's going to Ed Reed Minka it, on the deep balls a ton.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting matchup in that respect and how they try to attack that, because their defense this year, 17 targets in the first 2 games to tight ends.
Against them.
They've allowed 13 completions. So Freiermuth could eat in this one.
Well, Bowers is a guy that's been featured like crazy.
Yeah, but they played him
Carolina
in week
doesn't
one.
have anybody.
Week 1, he really didn't blow up.
Right.
Bowers blew up last week against Baltimore.
And Carolina doesn't have
they don't have a great tight end, and they were still able to complete some passes to the tight ends.
And we certainly know there's going to be tight ends on the field.
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them. Like to this extreme. I mean, Steelers play 14 personnel. We don't say those words very often.
Yeah.
1 back, 4 tight ends.
They could actually play 15 personnel this year if somehow Michael Pruitt made it back, because they got 5 active tight ends on the roster.
Or if you count Jones as a tight end. I mean, because he's lining up in a tight end spot if they actually do that stuff. But anyway, 15 would be one too many. You get a flag for that. That says 12 guys on the field, right? Yeah. But you don't even need a back if you have Fields. But anyway, they lead the league in 14 personnel, which if you play 5 snaps a game, you're going to lead the league.
Yeah.
But they also lead the league in 13 personnel with 3 on the field, and they're 10th and 12.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of tight ends.
That's a lot
of tight end usage.
And the Chargers are up there as well in terms of the 12.
They absolutely are.
Yeah.
And their tight ends are fine, but they're not great.
Yeah, they're not special in any way, shape, or form.
Dwelly's the blocker, and he's only run a route like on 20 or 30% of the dropbacks. Hurst is the receiver. But none of you have Hayden Hurst in your fantasy league.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And he's questionable.
He's questionable. Yeah.
And then Will Dissly's.
He's a blocker.
Yeah.
He's a blocker, yeah.
Eric Tomlinson and Stone Smart are the other 2 guys.
I don't know anything about Smart, but Tomlinson sees the field some. You know, because they play a lot of tight ends too.
So it's going to be interesting. I'm fascinated by the matchup because it's just so mirror image.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
A lot of it. Except they have holes.
Except they have more holes than the Steelers do.
And the Steelers have more of a quarterback question, and but there are a lot of similarities. I don't see a number 1 receiver in their group.
No.
But I might take McConkey, Palmer, Johnston over Jefferson. but I'll take Pickens over all three of those guys by a landslide.
Yeah. And as I said yesterday, Freiermuth's probably the second most talented pass catcher on the field.
Probably in this game.
Yeah.
Or talented, who knows, but definitely accomplished.
Yeah.
Or, is better at this job, you know what I mean? Johnston's talented. He's big and fast, but he's kind of raw.
Yeah. I wonder, too, how much the Steelers, do they have Joey Porter Jr.?
I don't know if they'll put him on
him.
Johnston or not.
It's a good physical matchup.
I don't think it'll be McConkey.
No, he's
or
in the
Palmer.
slot. Yeah,
right.
And Palmer may not even play at this point.
Right.
And then you're looking at who are their backups? Darius Davis, Simi Fehoko, Brendan Rice. Young guys. DJ Chark's on IR.
Okay. They're not going to put a third receiver out there very
Probably
often.
not.
Especially
Yeah.
if Palmer's banged up. I'd consider putting him on Johnston though.
He's gotten 19 targets in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
So he has been active.
It's a much easier test than London or even Sutton.
Yeah.
He may not catch a ball.
Yeah, you take that away,
right,
now
right.
What do you got?
If you're really playing 10 on 10, Joey, you got him. Because physically, that's the type of receiver they usually put him on. He's a first-round pick that looks like a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Wow, that guy looks the part. He's fast. But I think Porter would eat his lunch.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
It
might be worth it.
Yeah, just for that matter.
Yeah, just for that
fact.
matter. Yeah. Maybe not every snap, but a high percentage of them.
Yeah. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. And, of course, you can hear us on these very airways every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. live. And, of course, you can also download the Steelers mobile app and listen to the show on there. Watch us on YouTube.
Yeah.
Of course, we're on Fox Sports Pittsburgh here as well in Pittsburgh. We're going to get to a break. When we come back, we're expected to be joined by Steelers defensive tackle Montravius Adams. You won't want to miss that. Mon Adams is a good one. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and we're still awaiting the call from Mon Adams. He is calling through now.
All right.
Montravius, are you there?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
All right.
Oh, there you go. How you doing, Montravius? Off to a good start this year, not just as the defense as a whole, but yourself as well. This defensive rotation up front, the defensive line, deep, talented, and man, you guys get after it.
Yeah, man. I think we got a great group collectively together, man. We work well together, and we're just trying to grow and keep continuing success.
You've obviously lined up against Zach Frazier many times. How's the Rook doing for himself? What's he like to go against?
Man, I think it's fun. Me being in a different position, being the older guy, I think he takes in all of the criticisms. I think he takes in all of the advice, and I think he just comes to work. You know what I'm saying? Guy that tries to just come and get better every day.
Montravius, I talked to you, I don't know if you remember this one or not, I talked to you a couple of years ago in the locker room, and we were talking about kind of your transition, the progression of your career, and you told me that you felt it took a few years for you to understand. Your coaches in college would tell you about hand placement, and because you were so uber talented in college, you didn't really need to worry about that stuff. But as you've gotten older here, you've learned how to utilize the hand placement and the leverage and things of that nature. Do you feel like this is the best version of you that you're putting out there right now at 29?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I think with more opportunities that I still got a good bit to show.
Did Cam Hayward fight you at all for that sack in the opener? You guys, I thought you guys were going to share that one, but you got full credit for it, and it was like a race to the quarterback.
Hey man, definitely a race to the quarterback, but I don't think Cam want to do that, man. But no, we are good, man. We're just coming to work. We're coming to work. First one that get it, baby.
Dale mentioned you're now 29 years old. You've been in the league a good stint, and I think a lot of our listeners look at the nose tackle position as just a guy that eats up double teams and eats up blocks, and I think it's far from it. How's the nose tackle position changed since you've been in the league?
Shoot, man, we're definitely not as big. I think we're a little more athletic, a little faster.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think they utilize us differently. They like I feel like the noses can be an X factor in the league today.
We've already seen. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You got it.
We've already seen some of that explosion from you up the field this year already. As I mentioned, you got the sack against the Falcons. But you're a guy that does get that penetration up front. Have you seen teams start to play you a little bit differently? Are you getting more double teams and things of that nature?
I try to tell myself that I'm not, but I do feel like I've been getting more double teams. You know what I'm saying? But I do think as well as getting them with my opportunities, I feel like I've been winning most. And, I think you just got to do it faster, especially with how the QB is getting the ball out. But, man, you just got to do what you got to do. But, yeah, I definitely think so.
You mentioned that the team's getting the ball out quickly, and obviously they want to do that against your defense because of the two guys you have on the edge there. Does that make it even more incumbent upon you guys in the interior to win and win quick?
Oh yeah, man. Because shoot, if I don't win in about 3 seconds, man, TJ, Alex, and they coming. Herb, man, they gonna be there, man. So if we don't get it done quick, you know who's gonna get it. So you know what I'm saying? Not that it make your job harder, because at the end of the day, like, I'm gonna be happy as long as we get the sack and get the win. But for as far as yourself and goals you have for yourself, man, you better be fast.
Have you played against Justin Herbert before, and what kind of challenges does he present?
No, I don't think I have played against Herbert. I feel like last time I played them, they still had Phillip Rivers. But what I would say, I think having the new coaches around, I feel like it has upgraded him. You know what I mean? Just from I guess, like, little bad decisions. I think they run the ball pretty well. And I just think it's going to come down to, like, us getting pressure on the quarterback and the back end also coming down the tackle.
You mentioned that.
Because at the end of the day, I feel like the first thing we got to do is stop the run. So I don't think it's one of the games where it's like, hey, D-line, like, we got to stop the run. I think this game is one of the ones, because I feel like they run outside a little bit. So I feel like this is one of the ones where, like, it's going to be all 11. Like, outside corner might have to tackle, outside backer, linebacker to the safety. Like, I feel like we're going to kind of need everybody. And, once the game turned one-dimensional, I mean, everybody kind of know who the Steelers are.
Our guest is Steelers nose tackle Montravius Adams, and Mon, you mentioned that new coaching staff there. It's obviously an offensive system that comes over from Baltimore. Do you see a lot of similarities there with what the Chargers are running? With what the obviously there's no Lamar Jackson there, but the running backs are the same dudes.
I would definitely say it's a good bit of similarities. I can't really say a lot about it, but definitely some similarities.
When we were talking,
and if we be honest, some similarities just from being at Michigan. You know what I'm saying? They were still a run the ball first team, and the different schemes of running. I feel like he still brung some of that stuff that he did, you know what I'm saying, back to the league. But I definitely would say some similarities.
When we were talking to Cam earlier today, he said this is not a game where you're going to be worried too much about the dime package. Do you have to? Is this as Mike Tomlin might call it, a kind of a tooth chipper game that they want to run the ball, you guys know you want to stop the run, and it's just strength against strength?
Definitely. I definitely think that's what this week is, strength against strength. And I think whoever wins that battle wins the game.
How psyched are you for the home opener? See the home crowd?
Oh, man, very. I think it's going to be a little different this year just because, me personally, like, what I'm saying, me and my family, like, my family won't be in town. But as far as everything else, like, man, it's going to be great. Very excited. I know everybody else is. And
2-0
the
doesn't
outcome
hurt.
that we want.
Absolutely. This is the only matchup this week with two undefeated teams in the NFL. So it's going to be one of the marquee matchups that everybody's going to want to see, and good measuring stick for both teams to see exactly where you're at early in the season against another good opponent. But, Mom, we'll let you go. I appreciate you calling in, and good luck on Sunday.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate it.
That was Montravius Adams, Steelers defensive tackle, and really playing well, and has played well the last couple of years.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot this offseason, that I was happy to see him come back. I thought he was a valuable contributor last year, and seems to be picking up right where he left off. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a really good rotational piece.
Absolutely. But we're going to get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this.
This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, earlier today on ESPN, I think it was earlier today, Mel Kiper Jr. went on and advocated for the NFL, because points are down and big plays are down and all that stuff, to outlaw the cover 2 defense. First of all, how the hell would you outlaw that? Secondly, how could you why would you outlaw a defense that's been played in the NFL for years?
Since I've been knowing anything about the game at all,
It's
to be
like
very honest
the
with you.
most base of base defenses.
Yep.
That you can't take that out of the game.
So we were down at the facility today, and I was waiting for you at lunch too, and Pat McAfee was talking about it on his show. And I don't know if he's just reacting to Mel, or I wasn't paying that much attention. I assume that's what happens. And I just saw the headlines. I wasn't really listening to the words coming out of his mouth. I'm like, what on earth are you talking about? Like, for example, at the Senior Bowl, I think this is still the rule. You're only allowed to play cover 2. You know what I mean? Like, this is, and I understand what I don't understand, but the league is having a massive crisis, is a strong word, lack of explosive plays, passing yards are super far down, points are down, excitement is down, I guess, in terms of fantasy and big plays and all
really
those
what
type
drives
of things.
the car, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all swell, and they don't want to allow holding and things like that, or help the offense too much. And the kickoff rule hasn't benefited the offense at all, really, because all those numbers are down from last year. But that's foolish. I mean, what are we talking about? You can't play this coverage?
Yeah.
And as if refs don't have enough on their plate to begin with, and they're going to start throwing flags for cover 2?
As if defenses don't have enough to work,
Right. You can only play man.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. The biggest issue, I think, with scoring being down is twofold. We've got a lot of young quarterbacks playing in today's game.
Yep.
A lot of them.
A lot.
And a lot of these guys are young running quarterbacks because that's what everybody wants now.
Sure.
And let's look at Justin Fields' career just in a nutshell here. If you look at Justin Fields' progression from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to now year 4, his first season he completed 58.9% of his passes.
Okay.
The next season it was 60.4%, so a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Year 3 was 61.4%, so even a little bit better than it had been.
Yeah, I mean, that's progress every
and
year.
now he's completing 69.8%
So
of
this
his
year's by
passes.
far his best.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 10 points better than his career average. Now, I think there's a lot to unpack here. I always go back to the root, to me, is D linemen are better than O linemen.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why athletic quarterbacks have become more in vogue, because you got to get away from Bosa and Mack and Highsmith and Watt.
If you're sitting
Cam
in the
Hayward
pocket,
and,
you're a sitting duck.
right. So therefore, you get more athletes.
Unless
there.
you're Tom Brady and you process things,
And that's
ridiculous,
rare.
yeah.
And it takes 40 years. You get killed
He
in the
was not
pocket
that
while
guy
you learn
early in
that.
his career, yeah.
Right. Peyton Manning, all these dudes. So the college ranks are giving us a lot of athletic quarterbacks too, but they're far from polished passers.
Right.
So
because their first thing is one read, it's not there, take off.
Yep. Because one thing that is up drastically this year is quarterback rushing yards.
Yeah.
And I was even listening to this morning. Jalen Daniels, when he's, quote, pressured, he takes off like 75 or 80% of his pressures. Like doesn't even bother waiting around. Like just that's probably how he was coached.
Right.
I mean, or Washington wouldn't have him out there. So if you're under pressure, take it off and run, and that's the best we can do for now.
Get us 5 yards, get us 10, whatever you can get.
Yeah. And in turn, if there's more running, there's fewer plays, the game gets shortened. And as you know, because you did the study on it, penalties are up like crazy this year too, which is another problem. And back to the young quarterback thing, Mike Sando did a study. He does it every year, but he's the one that did the work. 1 year ago, the start of the 2023 season, opening day, was the youngest group of quarterbacks in like 30 years. Well, everyone only got 1 year older, and then they infused 3 rookies, none of whom have thrown a touchdown pass yet.
And the Steelers have started Justin Fields, who's actually younger than Kenny Pickett, so they got younger at the position.
And Wilson didn't start.
Yeah.
And Rodgers did both years, but he's a year older.
Right.
So it's still extremely young is my point.
If you take Aaron Rodgers out of the equation,
right.
I'll bet it's easily the youngest group of quarterbacks.
Then you're looking at like Stafford or Cousins or somebody like that is the 38-year-olds. And there aren't many of them right now.
No,
there used to be a lot of those.
Yeah.
There used to be a lot of them. And then there's not a lot of
32-year-olds.
Yeah. That's the problem. Is the Wentz, Mariota, Winston era didn't hit
produce
many.
anything.
Yeah, it was a bad group of bad draft class, or they just didn't work out.
I mean, really, right now the middle class or the middle tier of the in terms of age is now getting to be Mahomes and Allen.
Yeah, they're starting to hit that.
They're
part
in 28
too.
now.
Right. So even like Russell Wilson's draft class, Luck retired, or he would be in the mix there. Wilson was a really strong candidate 2-3 years ago. Now we haven't seen him even yet this year. Cousins is in that group. Tannehill's done, and that's one of the better classes
in recent years.
In that, right around there. I mean, again, the Wentz and Goff was okay, but Winston and Mariota, and I mean, so
you just don't have many 30-something, like in that 28 to 32 range.
Is really lacking. It's like a generation got skipped.
Yeah,
it really is.
And so it affects the way teams play offense and the offensive output overall, because you've got all these young guys. The other thing about it, and another reason teams, in my eyes, are running the ball so much is another trickle down from the college game. How many of the, when we talk at draft time, inside linebackers coming out of college are just bulked up safeties because that's what they need to defend at the college level.
Covering Big 12 and all that kind of stuff, right? So now all of a sudden teams are getting bigger. If you're going to play too high and 7 in the box, and your linebackers are quote every down linebackers, but they're
guys.
Big safeties, we're going to push you around. But the problem, I mean, that's the approach. But in order to start a drive at the 30 and end up with a touchdown with that approach, you probably need 12 plays, 8 plays, 15
and you're eating
plays.
a lot of time off the clock. And
if penalties are up, and then before you know it, left tackle takes a hold, and it's 3rd and 8, and we're not a good passing team, and here comes the blitz, and thus scoring is down.
Yeah. So let's not complicate this by,
taking away coverages
defense.
and stuff, right. Yeah,
defense is hard enough to play in this league.
Absolutely. And they've done a lot to prohibit defenders, more so than the other way around, for all these reasons. But that's not the answer.
No, I don't think so either. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on Steelers Audio Network. That's going to do it for hour number 1. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. Talk for us, Matt, so there's some people out there who still think our voices sound alike.
I don't get that at all, but I don't go back and listen to our shows either, because there's nothing really for me to learn by something we have already experienced.
We've already talked about it, yeah.
No one's ever brought it up to me pre-YouTube.
Yeah, this is something new.
It wasn't like, boy, I'm listening to your guys' podcast, and I don't know who's who.
Yeah.
I've never gotten that.
No.
But if you have, let us know.
Yeah. Anyways, it is now time for the Fantasy Football Focus, and it's a Thursday, so we'll go ahead and take a look at the practice reports. Who's in, who's out, and the big news today, Matt. Well, there's a couple things, but this is the first one. George Kittle did not practice today. It's a hamstring. He wasn't on yesterday's injury report, so this is a new injury for him.
It's huge, because considering the state of the tight end position right now, which is not real,
let alone the state of the 49ers.
Right. I'm just thinking fantasy for this segment, but this looked like a great start. You're getting the Rams. You already have McCaffrey and Debo out, and we know in that system. When you missed one guy, everybody else flourishes. Like Ayuk's numbers are great when Debo's out and vice versa. Kittle excels when one of them are out too. Like this lined up great for him. And who knows? I mean, we got a couple days yet, but it kind of has that A.J. Brown feel about it where wasn't there on Wednesday, but it was there on Thursday. Did you just do it?
Yeah, that's not good.
Not good. And that team just getting hit hard by injuries anyway.
Crushed.
Fantasy aside.
Yeah, getting crushed. Tyler Algier has a hip injury. He practiced in full on Thursday. Should be fine.
Bijan's still getting the big workload with them.
Big game for the Falcons this week against the Chiefs at home.
Real big.
I think the Falcons could hang around in that game.
Yeah, I think I will pick them with the points.
Yeah, it's like a running dog at home. I'll take the running dog.
I don't know what Chief fan contingency will be like. I'm sure they'll travel well. Not probably as strong as the Steelers, but something like that. I like what Atlanta did on Monday night, though.
Yeah.
Short week for them, though.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, there was more big news. Jordan Love with the Packers got in a limited practice today.
Nice first step.
It's a good first step. He's dealing with a sprained MCL in his knee. That's usually a 2 to 4 week injury.
Mm-hmm.
This would be on the short end of the 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know if he plays this week. They have the Titans this week.
I would think at the latest.
They're kind of playing with house money, though. They won last week.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's like you could probably beat the Titans without him. You could. I mean, I don't know.
Doesn't mean you will.
It doesn't mean you will.
It's in Tennessee.
In Tennessee. And you would think by next week he's in.
Yeah.
And that's better than originally expected.
Absolutely.
And if you get one win out of it in the process, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Avoided disaster.
Absolutely. No Keenan Allen again today for the Chicago Bears.
Not the youngest guy. Yeah, I mean, he might not be super quick on the recovery front.
That's a heel injury. He is not a speed guy, but you do need that. If you're not,
heels can linger too sometimes, right?
He's a guy it's more based on being able to plant and go.
Mm-hmm. Short area quickness.
If he can't do that, he can't be effective.
And I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently he added a lot of weight this year too, and maybe that's more stress on it. And he's a year older and he's not young.
Yeah. We mentioned no Josh Palmer in practice today for the Chargers. Does that make you interested at all in Quentin Johnston or Lab McConkey in fantasy?
If Porter's going to follow Johnston, I have no interest this week, which I think there's a good chance. McConkey more and more. I mean, we liked him a lot coming out of school, and I don't know if this prediction will come true, but we both thought he'd lead this team in receptions when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Certainly possible.
Yeah.
Still. I mean, he has done nothing to hurt that, but I mean, he's not the leader in the clubhouse right now. It's not bad. I don't love it for this week. I don't know that either one's going to catch a ton of balls this year or this week.
For the Ravens this week, a couple of defensive guys out of practice. Kyle Hamilton with a back.
It's huge.
Nate Wiggins with a concussion and neck issue.
Oh, wow.
They're playing the Cowboys this week.
Yeah.
And they're already hemorrhaging yards on the back end.
Right. They've had a lot of issues. Hamilton would be monstrous. Might be better for Ferguson. Remember, he was fighting an injury or something, too. I think he was
back at practice today, so that's good news for him.
Yeah.
And if Hamilton can't go, I mean,
he's one of their most important players.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not their best defensive player, he's their second best defensive player behind Matabuke.
Absolutely. And
Roquan.
Yeah, I mean, he just does a lot of stuff for them.
Yeah, he's kind of there.
Very valuable.
Move it around and do come down in the slot and
great at disguising stuff. And that defense, at least last year with the coordinator, was really hard to play against, and Hamilton was a big part of that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, Jake Ferguson did practice today for the Cowboys. Okay. That's 2 consecutive days for him.
I think the Ravens will be 0-3.
I think they could be too.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way. I think it's like a 1-point spread. I forget who's favored.
The Ravens are favored.
Are they?
I'm kind of surprised by that.
Dallas got pretty beat up. I mean, they got whipped last week.
Yeah, but the Ravens lost at home to the Raiders.
True. They both lost. Yeah, I think I'll take Dallas.
Tank Bigsby back at practice. He's dealing with a shoulder injury for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's not nothing.
He's fantasy relevant.
Yeah, he is, because he's looked good. All the reports have been good, and then he got hurt. ATN, I think, is a hard guy to trust, and I think they've been telling us for a while they do not want to overload ATN's workload.
Yeah. On the other side of that, though, Evan Ingram, head coach Doug Peterson said that he is a little further away in terms of being able to play in Week 3. That's a Monday night game, too. So you better have an option ready to go. And it doesn't look like Evan Ingram. You'll have to wait until Saturday's injury declarations.
But then you got to make your mind up.
You got to make your mind up. And if he's questionable, he did miss practice today, I'd probably have somebody else fired up and ready to go.
I think you have to. And he's not so great that you can't find a replacement that's at least adequate. So I would plan on not using Ingram. Their passing game's kind of weird.
Kind of broken.
It's kind of broke. Ryan Thomas might end up being the one.
They're not using Christian Kirk at all.
That's what I'm saying. Kirk, I don't think he's like falling out of favor, but he's not getting targeted like you'd think.
Yeah, I had somebody offer me like Kirk and somebody. No, I don't want Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I'm not interested right now, right?
I don't want anything to do with that passing game.
Thomas looks good. I mean, but is he a one at this point? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Looks like T. Higgins back to practice today for the Cincinnati Bengals. They play Washington this week.
I guess you put him right back in the lineup, right?
You have to.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, that's a terrible defense.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Joe Mixon did not practice today.
Looks like it could be Akers.
Damian Pierce did not practice today.
Okay.
So, yeah, it does look like Akers. And if he's available in your leagues.
I grabbed him in our league.
Yeah.
I think you start him.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, he fumbled last week, and they pulled him. But he was really good in the preseason. There were a lot of good reports. He doesn't play special teams, so that hurts some stuff, when there's 3 available. But he would be the guy on a really good offense. That's a top 20, ranked running back going into the Sunday.
He's going to get volume.
He's going to get volume.
And a good offense.
He doesn't even have to be good.
Yeah.
Fire him up.
Yeah, Nico Collins returned to practice. He did not practice yesterday. He's dealing with hip and foot issues. He is expected to play against the Vikings, but
he's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, he's needless to say. I mean, you put him in your lineup no matter what if he's playing, but he'd be a big loss. I think Tank Dell is one of my favorite buy lows, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been
He's
quiet.
the one guy that's kind of
right, and I
looming.
think he's somebody you should put offers in for.
Yeah, lurking there. CeeDee Lamb limited on Thursday, dealing with an ankle. But they're not concerned. Yeah, they're not concerned about him missing the game. Again, they need a bounce back effort. They don't have anybody else.
No, they don't. I mean,
Jalen Tolbert and
And Brandon Cooks is okay, but but I don't have much to add to that. Obviously, you're going to play Lamb.
With the quarterback change in Carolina, Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen have kind of been ignored early in this season. You have any interest in either of those guys this week?
I'm sure many listeners drafted Johnson with the thought of he's my flex or he's my wide receiver 3 or I'm going to start him more often than not. I think you get back to that at least. I mean, no one cut him after 2 weeks.
I hope not.
You wouldn't think.
If they did, pick him up.
Yeah. I mean, I still think he's probably likely to disappoint and not hit his fantasy day draft status when the season's over.
Yeah.
But I'm a lot happier starting him now than in the back. I mean, they're throwing for 69 yards or 79 yards or whatever it was.
Yeah, and getting nothing down the field. Like they couldn't complete a pass longer than 5 yards down the field with.
And a lot of that was young.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Dalton's good or not, but I know the guy before was not.
Yeah.
So I'll take my chances.
I mean, we've seen at least Andy Dalton complete passes in the NFL.
A lot. It's been a while.
No IR for Cooper Kupp yet.
Okay.
Kind of suggests
leave the light on.
Yeah, it kind of suggests that's not going to happen. So obviously they don't think, the Rams don't think he's going to miss up to 4 weeks.
They seem like a desperate team too.
Yeah.
Like putting him on IR would almost be like waving the white flag
we're
at this
done.
point. Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Jeff Wilson Jr. was limited for the Dolphins.
I think Mostert is too.
Yeah, Mostert. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah. But Chan's the only one I'm excited about in that offense right now.
Yeah, Chan and Wright maybe gets a little bit more if Wilson can't go.
I don't think either one of us approved of the way Miami used the Chan. I mean, he's not going to last long like that. But if he's going to get 20 touches a game, he's going to be a running back 1.
Yeah.
Even on a bad team,
Yeah, so we'll see. They need something because
They need something.
they can't go into Seattle this week and expect to.
We talked about this yesterday. If people missed it, well, shame on you. But Tyreek to me is not a receiver one now,
No,
let alone the receiver one. And Waddle is kind of like that Deontay conversation. Like,
Yeah.
who would you rather start between those two?
Mm.
Like, that's amazing to ask, but I think that's about where he's at with his quarterback situation.
yeah, I don't want to start either one of those guys.
Right.
You know, if I can
Probably come up with
avoid it.
30 names. Like, I'm putting T. Higgins in over both those guys.
Yeah,
I mean, no doubt.
yeah. So I mean, it's a tough.
And passing numbers are down, and, we've talked about that a lot.
Seattle's going to be a tough place to play.
Oh, I think that's a tough opponent
mean-
for them, yeah. I can't imagine them winning that game. Traveling all the way to Seattle from Miami
With your backup quarterback.
with your backup
I mean,
quarterback.
Seattle's
right.
defense, fire it up this week.
Yes. Oh, that's a great one, yeah. And plus their O-line is bad. I expect there to be sacks. I think Seattle controls the game. Geno Smith's having a really good year, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he may be on the field
Well,
a
their
lot.
receivers are good.
They are good. They are good. And the O-line's not as bad as I thought.
No.
I
So
thought Seattle and New Orleans O-lines would be somewhat crippling, and there haven't been at all.
yeah, no, it's not been an issue at all, and
Mm-mm.
I think largely because, as you mentioned, Geno Smith is.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league.
Looking at tonight's game, I'm going to give you some price points here.
Mm,
We're
okay.
not going to put together a lineup.
Yeah, it's not a star-studded group.
But if you're looking at the captain's chair tonight, Brees Hall 17-7.
Okay.
Ramondre Stevenson is 17-1. Do you lean one way or the other with the two running backs?
Hall's the better player, but I bet Stevenson now touches him.
Probably.
With Allen being in
Yeah.
the mix. That would be smart to me.
Garrett Wilson is 15-3.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers is 15,000. Jacoby Brissett is 13.5. Drake May is 13.2. Hunter Henry 11.7.
I wonder what Henry costs. I'm kind of warming up to him for fantasy. Just because who else is going to catch
Nobody
passes
else.
there? He's
They
a
have nothing
professional,
else,
I
yeah.
mean, he's been around the block.
Mike Williams is 9,300, and
Is he back to being a full-time guy?
his usage last week was I think he ran a route on 60% of their pass plays. Now they only threw him one ball
yeah,
down
I know
the
his
field,
production was bad,
but
I mean, week one, I think he was at like 10%.
he ran like 4 routes.
Yeah.
So
He's trending the right way.
that's a kind of a dart throw.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know that I have any interest in anybody else. Maybe would you play the Jets defense in the captain's share? It's 8,100.
I was leaning towards Henry, but it's not bad. I mean, the Jets D is more expensive than the Patriots D, right?
Yeah, the Patriots D is 6,600 in the captain's share.
Okay. I think it should be a really low-scoring game.
I think so,
mean,
too.
when in doubt, like, who are starters for you in this game? And not on DFS necessarily, but you're starting
Hall,
Wilson,
Stevenson,
Hall.
Wilson,
That might be it.
Rodgers.
I bet I come with 15 quarterbacks. I'd start over Rodgers.
I'm just talking a single game.
Oh, no, I'm talking about, like, on your daily,
Oh,
like, who,
that's pretty much
probably
it.
those three are the
Yeah,
only ones
that's
you're,
pretty
like,
much it.
firing up tonight. I mean, I'm sure you could do better than Rodgers. Both defenses are in play.
Yeah. But in a single game setting,
Yeah.
I want to do whatever I can. So if I can put something cheap in the captain's chair that makes sure that I get Hall, Stevenson, Wilson, and Rodgers in the lineup, Hall's 11.8, Stevenson's 11.4, Wilson's at 10.2, and Rodgers is 10,000. So if I have to pay down and put
Conklin or somebody.
defense
or,
in the captain's
defense. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm in on that.
Yeah, that makes some sense. I mean, I feel like the same guys are going to touch the ball a lot tonight.
And then Braylon Allen is $5,200.
Not bad. I mean, he's going to see action, and
Yeah.
he looks really good. Stevenson surprises me. I mean, I think I'm a big fan of him as a player. And preseason, I just kept moving him down my running back list. Like, man, they're going to be so bad.
Where are the points going to come from?
Yeah, where
That's
the points going to
yeah.
come. But he's been exceeded expectations. I mean,
I just
'cause
don't know that he can do it all year long.
That's the deal. I mean, with running back in general, I really look at it week to week.
yeah. So they put out more tape, and
teams
teams
get
see
beat
that
up more too. I mean,
teams are going to they can't throw the ball down the field.
right. And at some point, Drake's going to show up, and that probably doesn't
Help.
help. You know, I mean, and Stevenson's going to take a beating. But
Yeah.
I'm shocked how good he's been so far.
Another sneaky start in that game would be Antonio Gibson at 3,600.
That's not bad. He's done good things there. Yeah,
So
that's pretty cheap.
yeah, but that's some
Who you like in the
Ideas.
game tonight?
Jets.
think the spread's like 6.5, though. I think it's going to be low scoring.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I might take points.
Yeah,
I
it
think
might
the
take
Jets
points,
win.
but the Jets are at home. They should win that game.
They should win that game.
Yeah.
Their defense has to play better than it did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would assume.
That's going to do it for the Fantasy Football Focus. Matt and I are going to get to a break. We'll be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And this is The Drive, which you can hear Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. here on the Steelers audio network. And, well, you can also watch us on, of course, on YouTube, as some of you are doing right now. And, of course, you can download the Steelers mobile app and listen to it right on your phone.
Okay, that's a good move, yeah.
Good
Listen
move to do
live
that,
or
too.
find it in the podcast form or whatever, right?
Absolutely, but find us.
Yep. And we got a video be on that app, too, that we recorded today with Rob King.
I assume if you're listening right now, you have found us. But
Well, you guys have. Spread the word, right.
Spread the word.
Guess
Let
we have to
everybody
tell
know.
you, right.
Matt, it's time to look at the quarterback index here on NFL.com this week. We're 2 weeks into this thing. Nick Shook puts this together for NFL.com.
I guess Miami's got to be 32, right?
Well, this is the quarterback index.
Yeah, the quarterback's a mess.
I don't know how he's done this. But he still has Bryce Young in here, and he's put Bryce Young at 32.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't put Bryce Young.
Awful.
Oh, so bad. But I don't think Bryce Young or Tua should be in there if he's still going to keep those guys.
No, they did just start, so.
Okay, so he's going off of what happened.
Who just started, yes.
Ah, okay. I was thinking the other way around.
Yeah.
All right.
Next
All right,
week,
fair
you'll
enough.
see Andy Dalton in here.
Okay. Well, then Young should be last.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
Bo Nix at 31.
pretty
Down a
rough.
spot.
Pretty rough. Yeah, he lives real and really has no feel for things at the moment.
Yeah. At 30, down a spot, Caleb Williams.
The rookies are playing like rookies.
Yeah.
And Williams is inaccurate as just about anyone. He's right there in like Richardson level.
56% completion percentage.
Right around Richardson level, yeah.
At 29, was unranked last week, Malik Willis.
Well, I think he threw 12 passes.
It was like 22. Or no, I'm sorry.
it was under.
It was
14.
14 passes.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And they won.
He
and
threw for
ran,
122 yards.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, it wasn't a bad performance. He completed almost all of them. I think he was 12 for 14.
He had 8.1 yards per attempt, which in today's game,
Yeah.
you take that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, he wasn't bad, and everyone else you mentioned was bad.
Bad,
So,
bad,
okay,
yeah.
If we're going to do that, yeah.
At 28, up 4 spots, he had been last. Daniel Jones, he's still only completing 54% of his passes.
So his accuracy's not great either. And
No.
red zone's always been a problem for him, and still seems to be.
He did throw 2 touchdown passes last week, so got that going for him.
I do think people are harder on him than they should be,
Yeah.
but I also think he's a borderline starter, really good too. For
It
the
could be
next
really
8
ugly
years.
this week. They're in
Yeah.
Cleveland.
In Cleveland.
Yuck.
Yeah.
At 27, down a spot, Will Levis.
He needs to be there or lower.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not Bryce Young bad because
Daniel
there is
Jones.
some good.
I'd take Daniel Jones over
yeah,
Will
yeah.
Levis.
I'd much rather play against Levis.
Yeah.
Much. Because he's going to throw you one that's handed to you or do something dumb.
At 26 is Justin Fields. Is that too hard on Justin? Like Justin Fields should not, based on the way he has played. And I'm not saying he's been great,
Right.
but he's way better than the guys below him on this list.
Yeah, especially if you count the things that didn't count. You know, if you watched the tape.
Yeah, if you're not just
it.
looking at the stats and you
Right,
watch
right.
what happened in the games.
Right, and like how he actually played, you know, from start to finish was better than that for sure. And not put the ball in harm's way. I mean, that's an important component here.
Yeah. And he's got a 94.6 passer rating or
Yeah.
something. I mean,
Accuracy's up. And
these
all
other
that.
guys aren't even close to that. They're not asking him to do a lot of heavy lifting. But again, to your point, if some of those pass plays that had gotten wiped out weren't,
Right.
he's,
Like he should be ahead of Richardson.
oh, God, yes.
You know what I mean? Who's definitely above him. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know when we'll get to him.
He should be ahead of the guy who's right ahead of him right now, and that's Deshaun Watson.
Yes. That's another great
Are you
one.
kidding me?
I mean, Watson wasn't horrible this week, but he's been horrible ever since, and he wasn't good.
Wasn't horrible is the best that you can say
That's
about
the best
the
you can
quarterback.
say about him. Right.
Doesn't mean that he bumped him up 3 spots ahead of Fields
Because they won.
because they won. Well,
Yeah.
Fields is 2-0.
I guess, yeah, that's a good point.
Like, what are we doing
No,
here?
Watson's bad.
At 24, down a spot is Jacoby Brissett.
I guess that's fine. I mean, that's
Here's the thing
where he'll
about
always
Brissett
be.
this year, and I understand he's working with a very limited offense in terms of skill position players. They're not asking him to throw the ball a lot down the field, and he's only completing 58.8% of his passes.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not throwing the ball. You don't have a high A dot. He's only averaging 5.3 yards per attempt.
So what are you doing for us?
And he's only completing 59% of his passes. It should be much higher than that.
Should. I don't know if he should be lower or higher, but I'd rather play against him than Fields.
Yeah.
I might rather play against him than like Richardson, just because Brissett doesn't give you anything with his legs either.
He does. He has 38 rushing yards this year.
Does he? I mean, he's not terrible, but he's not
but
a runner.
No, he's not. Oh, we got to be watching out for this guy running the ball.
Right. He's never going to run for 80.
Yeah. At 23 down 3 spots is Richardson. He's completing 49% of his passes. I'm sorry. He should be, right now, he is a fantasy darling and nothing else.
He's right with Caleb Williams. They're almost like identical stuff.
The problem is he's only run for 93 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not producing anything anything close to what anybody would be happy with.
And the big problem, too, this past week was Green Bay had like 42 minutes of time possession.
Yeah.
Just because the Colts D is getting gashed. And just
and
fantasy
he's not
aside,
I'm going to lead you back kind of guy.
No, right. They need to win the time of possession, run
Yeah.
the ball. Taylor, Richardson, good offensive line, dunk it down to downs. Well, if your defense can't stop the run at all, you're not going to win many games with that formula.
That game next week for the Steelers.
I think the Colts are in a bad spot.
DeForest Buckner went on IR. They
right.
can't stop the run at all.
Who do they play this week?
Chicago, I think.
They do.
Chicago.
'Cause the two quarterbacks are playing very similarly.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Should not be that high.
No.
At 22, up 3 spots, Gardner Minshew.
Deserved.
He's completing 77.5% of his passes.
I mean,
the one thing you can always say about Gardner Minshew, he's not great.
No.
But he knows where his bread's buttered at.
Yeah. And, I mean, they defensive-minded head coach, we're going to run the ball. No, we're going to throw it to Bowers and Adams because we have bad running backs and we have 2 good pass catchers. That's what they're going to do all year. And
Absolutely.
He's going to put up good numbers.
Yeah, he will force feed those guys the football, and if you're going to double cover one of those guys, I'll just throw it to this guy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
you can't double them both.
Yep.
Michael Pittman would love to have Gardner Minshew back in Indianapolis.
Yeah, absolutely.
21, Jaden Daniels.
Seems too high.
He's completing 75.5% of his passes. Now, none of them.
I said not much yardage though.
Yeah, none of them have been to McLaurin.
Right. I mean, he's definitely my number 1 rookie.
Yeah.
But
he hasn't thrown a touchdown. He hasn't thrown an interception. He's also fumbled 3 times.
I would say he's similar to Fields with more turnovers.
Yeah.
You know, what's the difference between him and Fields this year?
I don't know that right now he's real difficult to play against.
No. And his running is good, but I think it's a little overrated. It's good. It's not special to me.
Yeah. At 20, down 5 spots, Trevor Lawrence.
It's been a problem.
51% completion percentage.
Yeah. It's
382 passing yards in 2 games. He hasn't turned the ball over. He hasn't had an interception yet, but he's not doing anything to carry that team.
No, and the film's not pretty right now either. It's time to be worried.
Yeah.
I'm shocked by that.
Can't miss prospect.
Yeah.
I've
been a Lawrence apologist.
It's hard to be that now.
It is. I mean, this year is not helping my cause at all.
At 19, down a spot, Justin Herbert.
Oh, that's too harsh. I mean, he's not doing much.
He's not doing much at all. And
like Mahomes didn't do anything last week. We're not putting him at 15.
Yeah, and I have to see who's ahead of him here, ahead of him. But again, I watched that game against the Carolina Panthers, and he did not throw the ball well.
I mean, they don't beat the Chiefs with that effort.
No,
or, you know what I mean? Like
they don't beat if he plays the same way that he played against Carolina, they don't beat the Steelers on Sunday.
Right. You'll take that performance all day long from a Steeler perspective.
He's averaging 6 yards per pass attempt. We talk about Fields, and we know Steeler fans know Fields has not been real aggressive throwing the ball down the field.
Right.
He's had a couple, again, wiped out. He's averaging 6.3 yards per attempt. Right now, Herbert's averaging 6.
Yeah. In a way, I think that's good coaching. Like, we don't need to put the ball in harm's way. We have no chance to lose against Carolina unless you throw 3 picks.
But he threw an atrocious pick against Carolina.
Yeah. And he's missed some layup stuff, too.
Yeah.
I do wonder if he's not right, but I mean, he's a better player than that.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying that.
Right.
At 18, down 11 spots, Tua Tagovailoa.
He should either be where he was. Well, I guess he was bad in that game.
He was
They're
bad
just,
in that game.
Okay. They're just judging his performance.
That one interception he threw was, oh
Yeah.
my God, what are you doing?
Yeah. I kind of forgot about not how bad the team was, but how bad he was
played, yeah.
because of the injury.
He didn't get Tyreek the ball. He didn't get Waddle the ball.
It was a sloppy
And that
outing.
was, again, one of these games. The Bills played a lot of too high safety and just said, okay,
Yeah,
we're not
yeah.
going to give you the deep stuff. Now
And they
what do
were
you got?
real aggressive attacking
Yeah.
the catch.
Because they could get there with their 4-man rush.
What number did you say he's at?
18.
See, even on his best day, he's 14 or 15 to me.
Yeah.
You know,
He was too high to begin with. They had him, he dropped 11 spots.
Yeah. Like, I don't think he contends for a top 10.
No.
Even on his best day.
It's 17 down a spot is Aaron Rodgers.
Who knows?
It's kind of how he's playing
It's
right
kind
now.
of how he's playing. Excited to see him tonight. I mean, is the rust off? I'm putting that in quotes. Or is he just okay now?
If he's 17 at the end of the season, do the Jets contend? I don't think so.
No, and I think he retires.
Yeah.
I mean, if he realizes he's 17, he still throws the ball really well.
Yeah.
you know,
He's completing 60.8% of his passes right now. It's not
that's not
typical
good enough.
Aaron Rodgers.
Not good enough.
He's not throwing to the backs as much either.
Hadn't thought of that, but you're right. Brees Hall needs to catch a lot of balls.
It's 16, up 8 spots. Kirk Cousins.
Rebounded well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why he's up 8 spots, because week 1 was bad. That's who he is.
Yeah.
Okay, I got no problem with that. I'd have him over Rodgers right this minute.
I think so.
Yeah. Definitely over Tua.
At 15, up 6 spots. Sam Darnold. He's completing
I'm speechless because
72% of his passes.
he's really playing well.
Yeah.
And I immediately was going to say, wow, damn Darnold over Rodgers. What are we talking about here? You know, like, but if you're judging how he's playing, you know, and if it was me making that list, that's probably where I'd have him.
Yeah.
You know,
Again, though, he's another guy that knows, hey, I got Justin Jefferson. I got to get Justin Jefferson the ball.
yeah.
You know?
I mean, he doesn't deal with pressure well still, but they're getting it out of his hands, and he's being smart with it and not making the crazy stuff. I mean, there's a little bit of that.
He's still a little turnover prone.
Yeah, there's still a little.
Yeah, that could turn into a pumpkin.
Yeah, but I bet he isn't the reason they're 5 or 6 win team.
Do they? Well, they're not going to roll with him.
I bet he's
year.
a starter in opening day.
That's
next
what I was going to
year.
ask you. Is
Yeah,
he starting for somebody next year?
Yeah, I think so. On opening day as the choice. I mean, there might be a draft pick involved too, but right. I bet it's a better situation for him than it was this year.
Yeah, I don't
Where there's
disagree. The
him
talent
and a
is there.
first round pick and yeah. Still young.
At 14, down 4 spots, Jared Goff. Didn't play well.
Didn't
last
play
week.
well, but it's probably a blip. He's pretty solid.
13, down a spot, Jalen Hurts.
Been sort of he's running a lot better than he did last year,
and more.
That's fine.
Yeah. At 12, down 3 spots, Matthew Stafford.
I still think he is who he is.
Yeah.
Right. If you're just going to take things away from him, it's going to look worse.
Yeah.
I mean, week 1.
The offensive line is a mess.
Week 1, he kept them in the game in Detroit single-handedly. I might even have him higher, but the results aren't great.
No. At 11, down 3 spots, Brock Purdy.
It wasn't a great performance by him either.
This is the thing with Purdy. When they don't have all the weapons.
I'm curious this week if Kittle doesn't play, even against a team like the Rams.
Yeah. When it's not all perfect for him, this is who he is. He's just a guy.
I think he's a good starter in that situation.
Yeah.
He's not the efficient machine, you know, that he is when they has 5.
They got guys running open all over the field, and you know he's processing it and getting the ball to the open guy.
Yeah.
He's not an elevator.
No, he's not an elevator. That's a good way of putting it.
This guy is. At 10, up a spot, Joe Burrow.
Yeah, but I don't think he's played well either.
Yeah.
I mean, last week was better than week 1, and I think the hand stuff is starting to go away, but I don't think he's been as sharp.
I don't know if the hand stuff is, and here's why, Matt.
Okay. I didn't see as much in week 2.
He's already fumbled 3 times this year.
Has he really?
It makes me wonder, that grip stuff that people are talking about with him trying to pick up the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that grip is just not where it should be right now, and he doesn't hold the ball in the pocket.
I wonder
as he should.
I'd like to look at the 3 fumbles.
Yeah.
Is it him holding it in one hand that gets blasted out that anyone wouldn't be able to hold it, or
is him just kind of
fumbling around with
losing
it?
the ball,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, I don't
trouble
know.
with the snap, that kind of stuff.
I don't think he's been super sharp though.
No, he's only averaging 6.5 yards per attempt.
They need to get Chase involved. Washington might help this week.
Yeah, that will help everybody.
Yeah, it's a good remedy.
At 9, up 10 spots, Geno Smith.
Good. I'm really starting to buy into him. I was highly skeptical for the first couple years as a starter. He is aggressive. He's a really good passer of the football.
Got great weapons.
Great weapons. I think this offensive system helps him even more than last one. He's a good player.
At 8, up 9 spots, this is going to be as high as he goes. Derek Carr.
Yes. He's playing really, really well. No one on the planet besides the Carr family noticed. But the last 3 or 4
His brother's going to list him as number 1 in the MVP
there you
rankings.
The last 3 or 4 games of last season, though, he was really good then, too.
Yeah.
And this system has greatly helped him. But that's his ceiling.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
it.
do we really think he's better than Matthew Stafford?
Joe Burrow.
Right.
Come on.
No. But
Yeah.
he's playing better than anyone.
At 7, up 7 spots, Kyler Murray.
Playing really well, too.
He's playing well.
Yeah, orchestrating a good offense. Hard to play against. Good deep passer. I'm fine with that.
At 6, holding steady, Baker Mayfield. I can't put him ahead of some of the guys.
Yeah. I mean, Carr's playing better than Mayfield, and they're both, to me, on the same quarterback tier. They're both tier 3 guys.
Yeah.
Maybe knocking on the door on tier 2 if things go well. That's a little rich.
Number 5 hasn't played
Having
well.
a really good year, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not taking away
of
from
course.
him. Number 5 is a guy, I don't think he's played his best football yet, and obviously didn't last week. He's unmoved in this one. Dak Prescott.
Agreed.
I mean, that's
It's
more
been okay this year.
That's more here's his resume, where you're going to put him at, than it is how he's playing right now.
And how he's ranked these quarterbacks, he's been harder on those guys.
Yeah.
You know, Stafford. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, he didn't ding Dak as much as he did some of those other guys. He has not been a liability by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't know that he should hold steady.
At 4, down a spot. I don't know how you ding this guy, Josh Allen.
I can't imagine him not being in the top 3.
I mean, he didn't throw the ball much last week.
No,
but
he didn't do, but he didn't need to.
he's completing 74% of his passes.
People don't understand how accurate he is
Yeah.
at all levels because he wasn't when he came in the
Right.
league.
At 3, up a spot, C.J. Stroud.
Hard to deny.
Yeah,
Hard to deny.
he's good.
He's a really good football player.
At 2 is Lamar. Lamar's not played well.
No, he's not. I mean, he's a great player.
Yeah.
I mean, so is Burrow. You know, I would have Allen too.
Yeah, I would have Allen. I'd
Yeah.
have Stroud ahead of him right now.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're figuring things out collectively, but he hasn't been great. Week 1, he kept them alive.
But again, he was part of them blowing that lead last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And then 1 is Patrick Mahomes,
sure.
who it doesn't
Didn't play
seem-
great either.
Doesn't matter what he does, he's going to be number 1 no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be 1 for me. He'd have to do a lot for me. Like, I forget who you said wrote this. I mean, I don't think these people are saying
It's Nick Shook, yeah, but
Baker Mayfield is better than Burrow.
Right.
You know, like, who am I picking for my team, for my franchise? So there's a lot of recency bias here, but not enough to say Mahomes should be 12, you know, because he had a bad game or wasn't awesome one game.
yeah, we were talking about C.J. Stroud off the air after we had our discussion about the young quarterbacks. And the one thing that he did in college that made me really kind of like him more so than some of the other guys, and people talk about, well, he's not mobile, he doesn't run. He can run,
Yeah.
but in college, he went through his progressions
Yep.
and was able to do that. Now, Jaden Daniels did that, was the guy in this year's draft who did that as well, and he's completing a higher percentage of his passes than the other guys.
Bryce Young was actually really good at it at Bama, too.
But his guys were always open.
You guys were all 7. I mean, but Stroud wasn't throwing the junk either.
That's true.
You know,
but,
right. But no, he's a processor. He's any era quarterback. A lot of Burrow. I think he has a lot of similarities to Burrow, but I think he's a better passer of the football than Burrow.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both good, not special athletes, but they can run when they need to. Stroud's probably
I think
better
Stroud
at
has
it.
a better arm, too.
I think he's a better passer of the football, period. Yeah. I mean, Burrow's a microprocessor, but on his best days, we haven't seen it much this year. Stroud's not that far off, especially for his age.
Yeah.
He's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's Nick Shook's quarterback index rankings. I think Justin Fields should be a little bit higher than what he is, but
I tend to agree.
I'm not going to quibble with it.
Considering the guys that are above him. I mean,
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3 of that, again, Richardson and a couple guys that are similar.
When Russell Wilson returns, where do you think he falls into this group?
Well, Shook is going to see a game. So, like, if they announce Wilson as a starter, he won't be on there beforehand.
True, right.
So, I don't know. I mean, like, Miami, that's why I thought Miami would be last, because I didn't think Tua would be on there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or Dalton would be instead of Young.
Just based on what we saw last year in Denver.
I mean, he's going to be below Cousins, Rodgers. I'm trying to think of what the list was like.
It was Cousins, Rodgers at 17,
I mean,
Tua at 18. Well, Tua's not going to be at 18.
Right.
Herbert was at 19.
So I'm guessing he'd be,
Trevor Lawrence was at 20.
I bet he'd be 20, 21 in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
If you had to stick him in there right now, just knowing what you know about him without seeing one snap. I mean, he's ahead of, like, the Levises of the world.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, those type of dudes, figuring it out guys.
And here's the thing about Nick Shook that people need to know. Nick Shook is he says this, he's on the air on NFL.com. He's a Bears fan.
An admitted Bears
So
fan. Yeah.
he's going to be a little harder on Justin Fields. And
Oh, I thought you were thinking about Caleb Williams. Yeah, well, that makes sense, too. He's probably mad at Fields. Makes sense.
yeah, let's get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back to finish up the show right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, just to finish up the show here, there are 9 unbeaten teams going into Week 3. It's Buffalo, Houston, Kansas City, the Chargers, the Steelers, Vikings, Saints, Seahawks, and Buccaneers. Of those teams, who are the real contenders here? Who are the teams that you believe this is actually who they are, and who are the I'm not going to say frauds, but who are the teams that you look at?
Can you list them again? I'll say yes or no.
Buffalo.
Contender, but not Super Bowl contender.
Okay.
I mean, like, division winner, win a game, beat a wild card team, but I can't see it being their year.
Okay. Houston.
Super Bowl contender.
Okay.
I'm there on them.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
Obviously. The Chargers.
Fraud.
The Steelers. Let's save them for last.
All right.
Let's save them for last. The Vikings.
Not a fraud. Successful year. Playoff contender.
Okay. In the NFC, that's,
Yeah, and in the NFC, it might be hard to get in the AFC now.
it might be.
I mean, you look
might
at it,
be.
I think there's
Yeah.
more playoff contenders right this second in the NFC than the AFC, which I'm shocked about.
The Saints.
The same, but a little bit better.
Okay.
I mean, I think they can win a playoff game in the right matchup and win 10 games
They have
this
a better
year.
chance of winning their division, I think, than Minnesota does.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah. I think it's I'll hold off on that.
The Seahawks.
Kind of like the Vikings in that highly successful season.
Maybe a year ahead of where you thought they were.
Yeah, outkick your coverage. Your timeline looks really rosy.
Like, I could see him.
Sort of like Houston last year.
I could see him winning Coach of the Year this year because nobody had any expectation for the Seahawks.
Win 10. Maybe beat
Finish
the Niners
second,
once.
finish second in that division.
Get in the division, or win a wild card matchup against the Saints or somebody like that. Yeah, I think things are trending really good for that team.
The Buccaneers.
Similar, but a little better.
Yeah.
They won the division last year.
There were greater
they won a playoff
expectations,
team. Yeah, they have some more veterans, Godwin and Evans and
Yeah.
Baker and et cetera, et cetera. But could be not a Super Bowl contender, but if they won a playoff game again, or maybe somehow even got to the NFC Championship game, that seems a little rich.
That seems a little rich
but,
for me, yeah.
You know, that would be the ceiling.
Yeah.
And maybe that is too much.
They're kind of top heavy in terms of the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they get a couple of injuries.
Nothing bad's happened to them yet.
Yeah.
You know, right.
Yeah. Although they have been missing the safety.
Winfield, that's a good point. I mean, he's a really good player. Yeah. He didn't play last week.
So they overcame that and beat a good Detroit team.
They did.
So
they played Detroit tight.
Yeah,
maybe they just played Detroit tough. Period.
Good matchup for them. I think.
Yeah.
That brings us to the Steelers.
Had a schedule. Division, the best division in the league. Contender to win it. I can't say Super Bowl contender. I'm not sure I'm willing to go can win playoff games with the stat. I mean, you got to score touchdowns.
Got to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think
hard to play
will.
against.
I think the touchdowns are coming.
I do too. But what we've seen on tape till now, better version than what we've seen the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's improvement.
I think the defense makes them really hard to play against.
Yeah.
I think George Pickens is an emerging star.
Yeah. I think the O-line will shape out to be a strength.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it's a strength yet.
I
think
really
the running game will be a strength.
Really interested to see what Pickens can do with Wilson at quarterback.
I agree.
Wilson throws maybe the best deep ball still in the game today.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean,
I'm excited to see Wilson at quarterback, period.
I just keep thinking of that out that he threw to Pickens in the preseason game, the second preseason game. I'm like, I want to see more than that. I want to see more of that.
And even a lot of stuff in camp. And I know Wilson didn't practice all the time, but the crispness and the on time, and there was a very much a difference with how they played quarterback in a professional manner and timing and things like that. So I don't know. I mean, they're more incomplete than the others because no one else is playing with a backup quarterback.
Right,
on that
that's
list.
the thing.
You know what I mean?
They're playing with a backup quarterback right now.
And and still people don't quite believe that, but the Steelers are playing with a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they might end up being 3-0 with a backup.
And the thing
and you're
about
in a really good spot.
Yeah, the thing about it is too, Matt, is the people who are talking about Wilson in a bad manner are the people who didn't get to see him
at camp. Right. They just think he was terrible with Denver, which he wasn't.
Yeah.
Year 1 was bad in Denver. Year 2, he brought them back to some victories. I mean, those 8 wins were.
Think about it this. So one of the issues that Fields has had in the early going thus far is a couple of the passes he's tried to throw to the backs out in the flats.
Yeah.
Where I can think of one in Week 1 against Atlanta. That if Najee Harris catches the ball, if he throws the ball out in front of Najee Harris,
needs to be accurate.
He had those 20 yards in front of him. It was going to be a big gain.
Yeah,
and he threw it behind him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I
don't think you'll see that.
Wilson doesn't miss that layup.
No. That's like a handoff for him.
Yeah,
I mean that's an easy throw. And we haven't generated a ton of value from Fields' running.
Yeah,
that might change.
I think that might change this week.
I think he averages like 55 yards per game
52,
for his career.
Yeah.
52.
Lamar's at 55. That's the best.
Yeah, that's the number. I bet if that's his over-under this week, I'll go over on Fields.
Yeah, I think he runs a little bit more because they're going to bring the pressure off the edge.
Yeah. But they're a tough team to rank. Not because we're close to them, but for this exercise of talking about 2-0 teams, who's real, who's not, I don't think they're a fraud that's going to end up, 6-11. Yeah, right. I mean,
which is where some people predicted them at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely. Everyone in the world, I'm taking the under. This is the year. Take the under. They're going to have a losing record.
If they beat the Chargers this week at home, does that change that perception? Because the perception on the Chargers is that they're a good team.
How many 2-0 teams were there? 9?
9, yeah.
I bet there's 5 or 6 when we have this conversation
this is the only game this week where 2 of the 2-0 teams are playing each other.
So we know one's going to fall off, but a couple will fall off, I'm sure. I mean, if you're one of the only undefeated teams 3 weeks into then I think you start seeing them at 10th in power ranks, not 15th or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They wouldn't have a great win, like the Saints blew out Dallas, or Tampa goes and beats Detroit. The 3 wins the Steelers would have, although I think the Atlanta one's going to look better and better.
Yeah.
None of them are going to be like, man, I never saw that coming. Holy smokes, And none of the spreads were insane. But still, if you're one of the 3-0 teams and then you insert a new quarterback in, people are going to talk about you a lot more.
And you'd have a good chance to go 4-0 against that Indianapolis team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's really getting ahead of ourselves. But if you could be 4-0, now you're talking about being 7th on the power ranks, and this is then the narrative becomes this is the best defense in the league. You know what I mean?
It's just how things change
exactly.
over
and that's
the
what's
course
fun about it. It makes our job fun too. I mean, everything changes so much in a week. If they get beat bad by the Chargers, it'll be like,
oh yeah,
world's over. You know, even if it's just a bunch of bad bounces or missed field goals or fumbled snaps or whatever.
Kicker gets hurt like what happened to the Giants.
Something goofy happens, right?
So,
or heaven forbid, what if TJ Watt gets hurt and it's like, all season show. It's just how this league is. It's rough.
It really is, and it really is a week-to-week league.
Mm-hmm.
It's the NFL.
Yep,
it's not for long.
But I am psyched about this game. I mean, I think it's going to be a
good
real
one.
rock fight at the 50-yard line.
Oh, if you like defense, turn this one on.
And running and
Old
stubborn coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an approach they want to take, and I don't think they're going to derive too far from it.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Matt, that's going to do it for our show today.
Nice.
Absolutely. Matt and I will be back tomorrow. We'll make our game picks, give you our DFS lineup, all that good stuff that we usually do on Fridays. Missy Matthews will join us on the show as she does every Friday. But for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site, keeping us on the air, for Tyler Vittmeyer, keeping us on the video and making us look as pretty as possible. I'm Dale Lolley. We appreciate you listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.